Hello, welcome to Model Kit Stuff. We're talking about airbrushes today. Well, actually, we're talking more specifically about air caps and upgrading the airbrush you've already got. Hello, my name's Jason. Yes, we're going to talk about airbrushes a bit today, and we're going to focus largely on air caps. We will talk about one or two other things as well, but I think air caps are probably the most misunderstood part of airbrushes, particularly by people who are novices at using an airbrush, new to airbrushing their models, or just bought an airbrush, they've got one airbrush and that's the airbrush they use and don't realise that there's other things they can do with that. So we're going to talk about that today. But let's start by talking about the air cap and its job. Now, like I suspect many people, when I first bought an airbrush when I was a teenager, I assumed that the air cap was there to protect the needle. In fact, I'm still in the habit of calling it the needle protector or the needle cap. And that is the job that it does. It ensures that you can't get access to the needle. We know that the needles are fairly, the tip of the needle is a fairly delicate thing, and if you bend it or damage it in any way, then you're going to have a problem with airbrushing, and so we need to keep it safe. So it does do that job, but it's doing so much more as well. When you buy an airbrush, quite often what people are doing is maybe reading reviews, reading round, considering their budget, and then buying an airbrush based on those factors. For some other people, aesthetics might be important and they want to have one that looks really cool, and they don't necessarily always realise the functionality of the airbrush that they're buying. So I'm going to talk a little bit about these different air caps and then how you can use that difference to your advantage. So actually the air cap does more than just protect your needle. It's affecting a couple of things that's happening when you spray. It's affecting the shape of your spray pattern, and it's doing that in a number of different ways. So it's affecting your atomization, and it's affecting the speed that you're putting down the paint and the pattern that you're putting down the paint. So to give you an example, we'll just run through these different sort of air caps. So this is a fairly standard air cap, and what this is doing is, as you look at it, you can see that air cap is pretty much in a straight line. There's a slight flare to it, but that's all. And what that's doing is it's as the paint comes out, it's shaping the cone of paint. So if you imagine your needle, let's just take this off to show the point. As the paint leaves the hole surrounding the needle, it's creating like a cone, and if there's nothing there, that cone is that sort of shape, with the needle being here, and it's going out as you go. And as you know, if you've watched my beginner's guide to airbrushing, then the distance means that how far away, how wide that pattern is as it lands on your model, but also the distance between the little droplets of paint, so your coverage, so your atomization. So as that cone is going that way, that as the paint travels, it's getting further and the droplets of paint are getting further and further apart. So when you have this sort of shape, what it's doing is it's sort of, rather than allowing the paint to atomize like that, it's shaping it like that. So it's going out forward, and then it'll slowly start to go out. But it means that you've got more control over the shape of your atomization, and also that you've got an idea of a bit of precision. It'll also sharpen your edges a little bit. So if you imagine that the center of where you're putting your painting is solid, and at the edges it gets a little bit more atomized and dusty and spaced out, this is just reducing it a little bit and keeping it in a funnel-like shape. So that's what that one's doing. But you can get others, such as this one, and you can see that's got a flare to it, and that's, although it's controlling the shape of it, it's dictating the width of that cone, and it is shaping it for you. Then we've got ones like this. So you can see there's no side there. This is for you to do things like straight lines. And you can even use that edge to make contact with, I don't know, a piece of paper or something like that. If you want to draw a fine line, you can do that. It means you can run it against a ruler or a straight edge, or even do circles in if you're using something to run against. So it has all sorts of uses, but what this is doing is it's shaping the cone, so you've got a nice line. But the cutouts here, the cutouts are allowing air in, and that's speeding up the flow of paint as it leaves the airbrush, so that it's reaching its destination that bit quicker, and it's really, really good for doing precise work. So I keep a #2 needle in this, and I keep this air cap on it because this is my best airbrush setup for doing very fine, delicate lines. Now I also have this. This is a distance cap, and you can see. And this also came with this because this airbrush was sold with detail painting in mind. So it's much better at doing fine lines than it is at painting a 1/200 hull. You'll be there forever with this. And this actually allows you to make contact with something and control the distance of your airbrush, which means it's controlling, with your trigger, you're controlling how wide your paint is, and you can keep it consistent. So that's why you get that in there. So you can also get air caps like this one, where it's actually concaved and it's facing in that way. So if you can see, and that's narrowing the cone of paint, and it's doing a similar sort of job to this, where it's managing that paint, it's narrowing the cone. So in this one, where I have a #7 needle in here, this is actually narrowing the cone of paint and how much paint I'm putting down. But what I can do with this airbrush, if I just take this off, because I've got a different air cap for it, so I'm not going to bother with the nozzle because I'm just demonstrating. I can put this one on, which is the same idea as this. It's got a thicker end, so it's not quite focusing the paint quite as much, and it allows me to do, I can change the direction of that, you see, and that allows me to do a pattern where I've got sort of a long, wide spray pattern in a sort of straight line, rectangular shaped spray pattern, and so that is great when I'm laying down large amounts of paint and I want to go across and put paint in a long line. So this is what I will use typically for doing large paint hulls, and you put a lot of paint down. Number 7 needle, you're going to put quite a bit of paint down. You're going to burn paint quite quickly, but you can put it down in a large area really nicely. So then you have air caps that have holes in. So both of these airbrushes have got 6 holes in. You can get air caps with 8 holes in. Now what the air holes do, now this airbrush, most airbrushes come with 1 cap. Some of them can come with 2 air caps, as we've seen. But this one, I keep a number 4 needle in here, but with this air cap on, what that's doing is it's doing 2 things. It's allowing the air to flow through the hole, and it's being dragged over the surface of the brush. So what it's doing is it's speeding up the airflow as it comes out. So the paint particles are travelling more quickly than just from the air pressure alone, and getting to your destination that bit quicker, which means they've got less chance as they travel to separate. So you've got a more precision atomized area when it lands on your model. So it's giving you more precision, it's giving you sharper edge, so it's allowing you to do fine paintwork. Now with a number 4 needle, that means I can do a sort of a medium size area with some level of precision. So if I give you an example, let's take this wheel for example. If I was doing this with my number 4 on here, I could paint that cap and minimize how much paint is going onto the tyre. Now obviously I could mask it as well, but with this I don't really need to do that. So I could put that down, I could minimize the amount of paint that's going on the tyre, and then we can always mask that and paint the tyre later. So it gives me an advantage in terms of that. But then if I have this my Mobius with a number 3 needle in it, and again with this air cap which increases the airflow, and you can see it's also conical as well. So we've got a combination of it focusing the cone into a tighter shape, and then you've got a speed of airflow as well, and that's giving you real precision, and it's why the Mobius performs so well with its sharp atomization. And in a number 3 brush, that's just going to give me even more control than over the number 4 needle, and I can do tight areas quite well. So for example, if I've painted this bonnet and I want to do the grille a different colour, I can go in with my number 3, and because of the shaping and the precision of the atomization being caused by the air cap, I can go in and I can just very carefully do that and not have to mask. So that's what the air caps are doing. They are shaping your paint. So when you buy an airbrush, you need to be a bit conscious of what you're buying the airbrush for, and how that airbrush is going to perform with the air cap that's provided. So there's no point buying this one and then going, right, okay, I'm buying this because I really like the look of it and other people have said it's a great airbrush, and you largely do 1/32 scale aircraft because you don't need that sort of precision. You're not painting figures or something with an airbrush where you need lots and lots of minute precision. So you really have to think about what you're buying. Now, there's a number of airbrushes around, and they all come with different air caps. So you have to look. But a number of companies, and we're going to focus a little bit more on Gallery here, will allow you to buy different air caps for your airbrush. So that means that you can do different things with the same airbrush. So this one, for example, this is a good entry-level airbrush. It comes with 2 needles. It comes with a 0.3, or I think it's 0.38 or something like that, and a 0.5, but it comes with just the one air cap. Now, if you wanted to put your 0.3 in and give it a little bit more precision and improve your atomization, rather than going out and buying a whole new airbrush, just buy an air cap with holes in. Put that on your airbrush, and that's going to improve what you're doing with your paint, because what we've done with this nozzle is we've taken it from being a straight shot to a bit more converged, so a bit narrower as it comes out, and then, as I've explained, those holes are going to speed up the paint and improve the atomization pattern. So you've already improved your airbrush for just the price of an air nozzle. And with the Gallery airbrushes, the air nozzles are interchangeable. Now, they do I mean, that's 3 different airbrushes we've put that nozzle on. The Swallowtail's different, it's a completely different size, but they do different nozzles and upgrade sets for the airbrushes, so you can improve them. So let's talk a little bit more about that. So just like the paint cups on the Gallery series airbrushes, which are all interchangeable, the air caps largely are as well. So putting the Swallowtail to one side, the diameter on the thread on all of these airbrushes is the same. So I can swap out the air caps. And if you go onto the Gallery website, and there will be a link in the bottom of this video to take you there, so please use that link to make sure you're getting any offers. And then in the search box at the top, type air cap. It will show you all the different air caps that you can buy. Some of them you can buy as an upgrade set. They come with a complete needle, nozzle and nozzle cap. Some of them you can buy on your own. So for example, for the Swallowtail, you can get an 8-hole air cap to improve how that goes when you're using smaller needles in it. So that's great. But then for these others, you've got all sorts of shapes. Now, I've not got the full range here. We'll talk about that now. But if, for example, you've got your Mobius 3 and you just want to do some general work, then you could put this flared air cap on, which didn't come with the Mobius 3. I've mixed them up now, so I don't fully remember. And that's just going to widen that a little bit. So if I'm doing, I don't know, say I've masked off and I'm putting paint down on a 148 aircraft and I'm doing a camouflage scheme or something like that, and I'm using my general number 3 airbrush, I can widen the airflow by just changing that air cap out. Similarly, if I'm thinking about people who've got maybe just 2 different sizes of needle in one airbrush, I can swap out and put the 6-hole airbrush on and improve the atomization of that and change how that airbrush is behaving just by changing the air nozzles. And most of these air nozzles are costing under $10. I think the 8 holes one for the Swallowtail is the most expensive, but those extra holes need extra machining, so there's a higher cost to the manufacture of these ones. So that's why some of the ones with holes in can be a bit more expensive, but you only need to have one of each type between all your airbrushes. So there's a saving to be had there. So these different type of nozzles will help. Now, if you've got a more conical one, I've only really got a conical one with holes in, one thing you do have to look out for is the buildup of paint, because your paint's wider as it's leaving the needle than it is when it's leaving the air cap. So you will get a buildup of paint on that inside edge there, and you need to be cleaning that out fairly often to avoid getting splatters on your work. So there's as always, there's things to look out for. So, you know, we've got wide pattern air caps, there's narrow pattern air caps, there's also a crown air cap. I've not got one, so I can't show you, but I can certainly talk about it. So let's just run through this fairly quickly, just to make sure that I'm being clear, because I can waffle a little bit. So a conical air cap, which is focusing your paint inwards, is great for things like drawing fine lines, fine detail, and typically you're not going to have the trigger pulled back too much, and you're going to possibly working at slightly lower air pressures. So you're only going to get that build-up of paint that I was just mentioning if you're sort of pulling the trigger back and going for it. And this is why having different air caps is important, because you do have different jobs. So even if you've got just one airbrush and you've got two needles with it, but you've just got the one airbrush, then you absolutely need to have different air caps, in my opinion. Now, most people will have probably, because it's the most common, these sort of straight ones. They're the most common because they're probably the most versatile, because they are keeping your atomization nice and tight, nice and focused, and giving you a sharp edge, which allows you to do general work with precision, but also work on delicate, fine detail with a sharper edge. So they cover the bases. So if you've got something like a 98D or the GAD 39, which I think is a great entry-level airbrush, you'll probably have just a straight air cap, and for me, you want to think about being able to change that up to change the performance with your needles. So you might want to get a wider air cap, so that when you've got your 0.5 needle in it, you're doing wider areas, you can lay paint down in a different way, and then one with air holes when you've got your 3 in and you want to focus that paint a little bit more. Now, many of you will have seen that I often, and I mean very often, use my airbrush without an air cap at all. That does two things. It allows me to get to the needle quickly and pinch off any tip dry. But also it allows me to focus the paint, so I've got maximum air being drawn over the whole of that needle as I'm spraying. So I've not got something managing how much airflow, I've got maximum airflow over the needle. That's giving me a really precision atomization, and it means that I can work at whatever distance I am with the maximum amount of precision. Now, you can emulate that with an air cap if you're worried about protecting your needle, and I'm always careful. I have damaged needles in the past, but I've not damaged a needle for some time, and I've never damaged one while spraying. It's usually while cleaning, in fairness. But if you buy a crown air cap, that is very similar to not having an air cap on at all, but it does offer you the protection of your needle. So if you want to have maximum precision, the sharpest edges to your paint as you're laying it down with good atomization, then a crown air cap might be one that you want to consider. I've already talked about the fine line air cap and what it can do, but you know, it's allowing you to do fine straight lines, which means an airbrush with this cap on is really good for tight detail work. Just to recap, a distance air cap. Again, it's very similar to not having an air cap on at all. And this just, I'll show you on this. This is my Infinity. It just slides on, and you can't get in and clean the tip particularly well, but it also gives you the ability to do a wider spray pattern as well. But you can actually put that on your page, on your model, and spray it at a consistent distance if you wish. Gotta be honest, never used it. Another advantage to the multiple hole air caps, 6 or 8 hole air caps, that I don't think I've mentioned, is that with the air rushing through, it does reduce the amount of paint that builds up on the inside of the air cap, so you're less likely to get paint splatter as that paint builds up. But you can't get in and clean the tip dry off quite as easily. So, you know, there's always pluses and minuses, but this, as I've said, will give you a really nice crisp spray pattern. So multiple air caps can give you lots of flexibility in how you work, giving you better efficiency, better control, better results. But there's more to consider than just the air cap. So I'm pretty much saying, particularly if you've got the gallery range of airbrush, but no matter what your brand of airbrush is, look at what they do in the way of auxiliaries, because you can get these different air caps and make a difference to what you're doing at a really cheap price, but you might be able to do more. So let's talk about that. So this is my Gallery Ace GHAC 98 Dual. It comes with 2 airbrushes, a 0.5 and a 0.3, and I can do some things to really enhance this airbrush and improve its comfort, its flexibility, its ease of use. So let's just talk about how to upgrade your airbrush without actually buying a different airbrush. So we've talked about air caps, and I would recommend if you've got the 98 Dual with 2 needles, and I'm going to say the same comment if you've got the entry-level GAD 39, then have a range of air caps. So have a 6-hole air cap for when you've got the number 3 needle in, the standard air cap that came with the brush, and consider a round wide pattern for your 0.4 or 0.5 needle that you might have come with it. So you want to have 3 air caps as a minimum. You might consider also getting the crown, and if you go on the gallery website and put air cap in, you'll see at the bottom that it says what airbrushes they're suitable for. I found that my Mobius, my GAD 39 and GAC 98 all have the same thread diameters, and you can interchange them. So if you've got different air caps on different brushes, that will help. What I intend to do is get the different air caps and increase and have all the air caps so I can swap them out. So probably gonna get myself a crown. I've never used one, so I want to have a play with that. And also have a round narrow pattern, so when I'm doing something a little bit more delicate, I can focus that air pattern. So with this, we can change the nozzle air cap, and that will help enhance the brush. We know that we can interchange all of the paint cups, so if you've got different size paint cups with different airbrushes, you can change them out, but also you can buy the different size air cups. So if you're doing big jobs with your big 0.5 needle on, you can put your big paint cup on, and if you're doing some delicate work and you're only going to be using small amounts of paint, you can put a smaller paint cup on. But there's other things. So let's take a look at how else we can improve this brush. So when you buy this airbrush, it comes with this round lever. So this isn't a trigger, that's a trigger. This is the main lever. Terminology is important because what I want you to do when you're on the gallery website is in the search box put in main lever, and it will give you all the different variants of the lever. Now there's different designs of lever, so you have to be careful. What you get in a Mobius, for example, will not work in one of these, but both of these airbrushes, so the 98 and the 39, they have a common biology. Best way I can explain it really, which means the levers are pretty much the same. And that means that you can change them out. Now, this is what they call an R, the main lever R. It's the standard lever that came with the airbrush. And it's round and it's got a slightly rounded edge. And what happens when you pull that lever back is you make less contact. And at this point, when you're at the further end, there's a little cutout underneath so it can go right back against the body. At the further end, you're making less contact with the lever. So we can actually make that more comfortable by swapping out the main lever. So let me show you what we're going to do. So all you have to do to do this is remove your body and the needle. I don't usually take it out backwards, but I know this is clean. Take out the spring housing assembly and lift out your main lever, and you can see the type, you can see the design. It's got a little plunger there which goes in, so when you press down you can release air. So this is a main lever C type, and you can see it's square and it's got a big curve there for comfort, but the big difference is when you look at the two of them is the surface area that's in contact with your finger as you rock it back. It's going to be much more comfortable, and that's also going to give you less fatigue on big jobs, and it's also going to give you a little bit more of precision control over your airbrushing. So we now take our assembly, plop that back in. I always go all the way in, make it tight so you know that you've got the assembly in as far as it should go, and there's quite a bit of travel on these, and then you can loosen it if you wish to. We'll put our needle back in, self-centered so we don't have to worry about alignment or anything like that. Tighten up that, check that's working, put our body back on. There we go, and I think we'll put 6 holes on there. So there we have it. I have upgraded that really nicely. Now I have this trigger. I took this trigger out for the purposes of this video and replaced it with the original trigger. I have this trigger in all the time. It is so comfortable, and you can see when I pull back I've got much more of my finger in contact with the trigger. I find that I can adjust it by minute distances easier than the round trigger. Now, I've not tried swapping it in this, but we will do in a sec. And it really does make a nice difference to it. It feels more comfortable and you feel more in control. So when you're using your airbrush, really nice. So different air cap, different paint pot, different main lever, and this becomes a different airbrush to the one you purchased. And you know, the levers cost, I think this one well, as I record this, it's on offer, so it's around about $13. But don't forget, if you go onto the gallery website, if you use my discount code that'll be in the text below the video, you can get 10% off everything. So if you want to get some air caps and maybe some more comfortable levers, you can do that and get 10% off in addition to whatever might be on sale there. So I'm going to just try this lever in the other airbrush just to prove a point. So there you go. If you're one of the many people that bought the GHAD 39 after I did a review of it, I consider it a fantastic entry-level airbrush. I actually really love this airbrush. It's so flexible. You can now upgrade it, put that trigger in that we've just talked about, really comfortable. Change your air nozzle to one that gives you a bit more precision, and you can really elevate your entry-level airbrush very, very easily. So go and have a look around on the gallery website. Have a look at how you can improve your airbrush. But whatever brand of airbrush you're using, have a look at what they do in the way of accessories and how you can improve your airbrush, give your airbrush a bigger range of flexibility, because it's often a really cheap way of improving what you've got without having to buy multiple airbrushes. There you go. I think we've covered a lot of ground today. Hopefully you've got a much better understanding of air caps, what they do, the difference they make, and how you should be swapping them around for different tasks. Thanks very much for looking in. You enjoy your modelling, and I will see you very soon. Bye for now.
Thanks for watching. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so. It's free, and that way you won't miss my first impressions, my tool reviews, my product reviews, and any of my builds, including wooden model kits as well as plastic. It's all free, and if you'd like to support the channel, you can hit my PayPal link in the text below. Every pound goes straight into the channel to keep the cameras rolling and to do more fun stuff for you to watch.